What's going on, traders? Today I want to talk about a very specific trade that really makes or breaks a trader, and it is a patience, because today has been an absolutely confusing day to trade. It all looks great in hindsight, but if you were watching this market live, then you were probably very confused while looking for good high probability setups. And it is very important to understand that during a day like this, being patient is such a strong, important skill to have. And most traders, they feel bad that they're not taking setups, but the high probability setups, they come to us. We stalk and we wait in the bushes. We are like a prey. We wait for high probability setups to come to us. We don't chase the setup. So if the setup is not there and it's not high probability at first glance, you don't feel the initial gut instinct to take the trade, then you really cannot force the market. Because today we started with a downtrend working into trading range, and price action looked fairly decent other than a few congestions right here. It just wasn't so confusing. There just weren't any setups. But since we kept pushing lower and lower, and you guys can know, if you see market pushing lower and lower and you keep making new lows and new lows, there's almost always a bigger pattern in play. And we were looking for multiple patterns today, and the first opportunity or first choice could be this pattern, first option, and this really didn't come into play till late now. I'm making the video, or there was a pattern something like this, but the market kept overshooting, the lower trend line kept overshooting, so it was really difficult to find a bigger pattern. And normally when you see market making new lows and it looks like a strong trend and you can't find a bigger pattern, what do? You only play the EMA, okay? But that was even impossible today, because you don't have a no good high probability setup, second entry short at the EMA. Take a look, you have a second entry short, you're not touching the EMA. You have a first entry short at the EMA, but the second entry you pushed above the EMA, and this is not what you want to see. And then you have, once again, a first entry short above the EMA. Once you get below, you're already coming low to all of these lows. So there was really no good opportunity for us to capitalize today. And not taking a trade is like putting money in the bank. It is always better to be 0-0 for the day, to have no winning trades, no losing trades, rather than forcing bad trades, jumping the gun in order for you, because you feel the pressure to make money. Once you feel the pressure to make money, you will not make it in this business. I can guarantee you that, because you need to be completely carefree. And today I only took these trades right here, and I got extremely lucky, to be honest with you. I don't know why I took these trades. And this one I kind of like more. This one I got extremely lucky here, that you guys can see market came back, and thank God I got a break even right here. And this one worked for a quick scalp as well, because of the limit order, barely scalped out, but we're going to talk about that later on. But other than that, it is extremely hard to find good setups today. So patience. You can never go wrong. Never feel the pressure to take the trade, because today we started slow and we ended up working lower. And even though there were no setups, just like a week ago, we started with the slow trading range, and it was extremely easy downtrend with a bunch of high probability setups. So you never know when the market is going to pick up and you're going to get a good entries. Okay, the next we started with a fairly big downtrend working lower, and we had a two-legged pullback that broke the trend line. And you guys can see we have an uptrend working higher, break, and a new extreme. And after price will break the trend line, traders will attempt to make a new extreme after the according to trend line rules. And we have a break, multiple legs to a new extreme. A new low was formed right here. We pushed strongly above the EMA, indicating strong bullish momentum. And the support at the time I had it like this, shown signs of a strong bullish momentum. And we kept pushing higher and kept pushing higher. This is still too early to trade. And normally it is better to not to trade in the middle of a trading range. We're going to talk about that. And take a look how today started with similarly like the week ago. We have a downtrend working lower. We have a break, new extreme, and then we just have this upward bias inside of this trading range. We eventually broke lower, and this really happened today. And I played it as a trading range today, but once we kept making new highs and new highs, I was looking for potential trend line like this, which was my mistake. I should have stuck with my initial gut. I just knew this is going to be a trading range, but that happens. There was an upward bias, but the way you play trading range is you buy the lows, you sell the highs, and you fade the breakout. Okay, but I don't think this is a good signal bar to take the breakout. And this lower high, you're still going short directly into the EMA. And the same thing as the week ago, take a look at this lower high. I still didn't like that trade at the time. I was hoping for a lower high setup, and you know, it didn't happen right here. And market just from the one side of trading range went to the other. And once the upper trend line got broken, then we have to switch the gears to play the trading range. And that's where I drew this trend line. And market what was chopping around this area a little bit close to the EMA. And we have actually a little bit break higher and pull back. And I treated it as a failed breakout out of this congestion, because we were bouncing off 2 key entry points, big bearish bar. But still, this wasn't a, you know, good breakout, because we're still, if you take a look, guys, we're still going sideways. There's like 14 bars going sideways. I took a trade right here, and then I counted this new low, and I have a first entry short, a second entry short. But by the time there's like 20 bars going sideways, there are 3 stims right here. EMA is starting to get flat. Even though we have a first break and we are waiting for a new low, this is a congestion, and you really want to stay out of this congestion. Once again, I got extremely lucky. Normally, market will not give me my money back like that. They got out the break even like that. Normally, you will get stopped out instantly, and that's the part of trading. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But you're coming off the highs, and we're heading all the way down to these lows. This is how the trading range acts. We have a break and a new extreme. And what does this mean? When you have a break and a new extreme, the downtrend is over. And the way you play the trading range, you buy the lows, you sell the highs, so you fade the breakouts. And there are no really good bars to buy the breakout other than this bullish bar. And you're not that far away from EMA, but this is a nice bullish bar. A few traders took it. Me personally, I didn't like the congestion. Once again, you really want to be a little bit, you can afford to be a little bit greedy when you're fading the breakouts. Like I mentioned, you can afford waiting for price to go a little bit lower, a little further from the EMA, because you just want to be a little bit safe. It worked nicely because perfect price action works to the T. And once again, look, once you have this failed breakout, you're expecting for price to hold and establish some sort of a support right here, and for bulls to actually rally the market higher, and it didn't happen, and we instantly turn down lower. Okay, there's a shortened trend line working like this. You have an overshoot and an instant push lower. So once we are pushing lower and you're pushing lower, you have to stop fading the breakouts, because we were supposed to be holding around this key level, and it didn't happen. We actually pushed below the key level. And once again, there are really no good entries to take a short or buy, and you keep making new lows and you keep making new lows. Okay, so from this point on, once you keep pushing lower and you keep pushing lower, that's where you start looking for a bigger pattern. But it was extremely hard to find a bigger pattern, because this was a really steep downtrend, and this is normally not gonna last too long. And there was, you guys can see, there was a first big correction, and the market eventually corrected. This is not one of those healthy 45-degree angle downtrends like this, a lot of small bars. So once the market keeps pushing lower like this, and we don't have a bigger pattern, you can just play the EMA. That's your safest bet in trends like this. And you always want to stay with the trend. You don't want to keep picking the top, keep picking a bottom just because it looks like it may reverse any moment. Don't be one of those traders. But there's a second entry short, not touching the EMA. There's a first entry short, not touching the EMA. First entry short right here, touching the EMA, but it's just the first entry. By the time you get a second entry, you're all the way up to here above the EMA. So once again, there are really no entries. We just have to watch this go, and you're, swimming in your thoughts that you're getting frustrated. There are no setups. Basically, if you're really following the rules, you were patient since the open, and you just have to watch this go without taking any setup. And once again, today was probably one of the most confusing days in months I had. I really was struggling today. You have a new low, first entry short, second entry short, but you're inside of this channel, you're above the EMA. And this swing right here confirmed this potential trend line. So once you have a lower high setup, big bearish bar, you push below EMA. This is a lower high setup of key entry point, you push below EMA. This is a good trade to take. Probably one of those better trades today. Probably the only trade, to be honest with you, today. That was fairly easy to spot, and it was a nice, quick, easy runner. But we even couldn't make it to the other side of this trend line. It already tells you something. We came up a little bit short, and we have a little break. We have a move to a new extreme, and there is a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, big bearish bar. But you already had a little break, attempt to make a new low, and now, at the time it looks something like this, and you don't want to go short directly into these lows. So the market really we couldn't make it to the downside right here, to the other trend line, but you don't want to buy at the same time either. So once again, I'm just sitting on my hands, not doing anything, just wondering if we're gonna get any good setups. And then you're pushing above the EMA, but you just have a first break of this downtrend, and we still may have a new low, but more important, I was still looking for bigger pattern. I was still expecting that the bigger pattern will unfold and we eventually may get a bigger setups, which didn't really occur. Okay, it didn't really occur, but it doesn't really matter because you play the EMA, you basically follow the short-term trend line. So once you have a new high in your first entry long, pushing lower below EMA, so you're expecting a failed second entry long because you're in a downtrend. You want to stay with the trend. Okay, you want to stay with the trend, which is down. But by the time you have a first entry long, second entry long failure, you're all the way down to these lows and its bar is way too big and you're far away from EMA. So once again, if you just rush the trade, you will get stopped out on a pointless setup that's not really looking too good. You're shorting the low of the day, far away from EMA, and you don't want to take a chance here. And there was actually a new low, first entry short, second entry short, and we were watching this. But by this time, the bar is setting up. Look how big this bar is. It looks like it's a decent entry, but take a look. Your stop has to go somewhere around here. This is 6-point stop. This is unenterable. Okay, even if you sneak in with a limit order and you're a little bit pushing the luck, this is still, let's say, 4-point of a bar. This is a huge bar. Okay, so this would be a great entry if the signal bar was small, because the downtrend, the trend is still down. This is the first major break, and this is the second entry short of key entry point, and we're coming off the other side of the trading range to the downside. So all the reasons are here, but it's unenterable as well, and we break below this trading range. We form a new extreme, and we have a first entry short pullback, a second entry short reversal pattern failure after the downtrend played out with the break and a new extreme. This trade right here, for me, is a little bit aggressive yet, but this is a good trap for a lot of advanced traders, because a lot of traders are going to get short going on a second entry above the EMA after we created a new low like that. But there was actually a new high right here, a first entry long, a second entry long entry right here coming off the trend line. EMA is holding and the support right now is holding as well. So you get the 3 key entry points right here. Nice bullish bar, and finally a little tiny bar, so you can afford to take this without having a gigantic stop. And from that point on, as you guys can see, look how the EMA was pointing down the entire time, and now it's just flat. You're going up and down through the EMA. You have a new high, you have first entry long, a second entry long failure. But this is the same situation right here. You just don't want to still above the EMA. You want to be a little bit careful taking the lower high. But once you push, actually create like a triple top right here, and you have a big bearish bar that closed below the EMA, you have to take this setup. And I want to show you guys one little pattern and one little tip. When you're in a trading range and you're coming off the highs, as you guys can see, there's a strong resistance proven, and you're creating a lower high, there's a big chance that you can draw a trend line of these first few swings of the resistance. And the same thing happened right here. As you guys can see, we have a trading range right here with support and resistance, and these this lower high with this high created actually this little wider, bigger channel pushing lower. And the same thing is right here as well from the week ago. I think it was Tuesday or Monday last week. You have this resistance right here, and you broke higher, you created a lower high, and these few two swings are creating this same type wide pattern. And we actually had a nice second entry short right here. Too bad we're not getting those good entries right here. We actually have a second entry short right here, because now you're coming from the high side of trading range to the low side, and you have a new low right here. First entry short, second entry short. But take a look what a horrible signal bar you get. This is a bullish doji, and you're closed above the EMA. And by the time you have this big bullish bar, this big bearish bar, you cannot enter here either. But take a look how price action works. You have a break, new extreme. At this point on, you can move it a little bit lower. And as you guys can see, when you're in the trading range, you have to just basically follow the short-term trend lines. You have a break, new high. You have a break, new low. But I mark this as an aggressive entry because overall bias is still down. Take a look how strong a trend to the downside this was. And you're not so far away from EMA to buy this, but you just have to follow the rules of a trading range. Of course, it is easier said than done. When watching this live, you're probably not going to pull the trigger here or not when you're this close to the EMA. But just as an example how price action works with the break and a new extreme, and you have a short-term uptrend break and a new high, move to a new extreme. And this is what I want to talk about, because a lot of traders were taking setups right here. They were shooting the gun here at anything that moves, and this is exactly an example why I don't like trading in the middle of trading range, because any setup looks valid every second entry looks valid, every failed second entry looks valid to both sides. Take a look how EMA is flat, is in the middle of those bars, lot of stims. You're exactly in the middle of trading range, you're in a no man's land, and you can get tripped up in this so quickly. You can lose so much trades in this, you have no idea. And this is why I absolutely don't like taking these setups. Even though if you have a second entry long or failed second entry short, I'm not going to just take a trade in this. I know it looks tempting, but that's the way it's designed to look tempting. This is designed to trap you in because longs look good and shorts look good at the same time. The best thing really is to wait and wait for prices to get to these extremes on either of these sides. You guys can see a second entry short right here of the highs, and we're pushing back to the once again middle of the trading range, which you want to be really careful. But once again, guys, stay patient. It is extremely important trade to have. You're not being a bad trader just because you cannot find a setup. You know, this is part of business. Some days are going to be so ridiculously easy and you're going to make so much money, it's almost hard to believe. And some days like this, you may not even take one single trade that you're really feeling confident about. You can make a reason to take any single trade. You can make up a story behind every single setup why you should take it, but it doesn't mean they're high probability and they're going to work next time. Okay, so just don't fabricate in your minds stories for why certain trades should work just because you're impatient and you want to make some money. It is always better. There's always another day. The market is not going anywhere, and I did not too good today. I just had one winning trade, and you know, the break even right here, so minus the commissions, you know that's not great too. But hey, there were a few good trades. Friday I was 3-0. Today I was not trading too good, but that's all part of trading. Okay, so this was a hard day to trade. If you were a little bit lost, don't take it personally, and hopefully you guys get something useful out of this. Every time you are at the hybrid trading range and you see the lower highs, just draw this trend line. Draw the trend line right here. Just draw this trend line right here. It will come into play. Okay, so smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are interested in day trading, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. So take care, buddy.